Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this little guy. So this is going to be a little scarecrow. It's going to be 2 player heads, one here, and then it's going to be levers here and tripwire hooks here and here. So I've already got my items that I want in game. Not that it's helpful, but I've looked through the game, I know what things I want to put together. It's just kind of helpful for me. I'm not really sure what your workflow will be, but that's just my workflow. So the first step you want to do is you want to come to my website. So that's just cookiesandom.com. Just put that into your browser, it'll pop up. I'm going to go down to Miniture BlockBench Converter. Click on that, and it'll bring us to this page. We don't want to mess with any of this stuff right now. You just want to click on template files. So if you go to template files and you open that in your downloads, we're going to extract that, and this will give us template files. So what I do is I'm just dragging this on my desktop for easy use, and I'm going to rename this to Scarecrow. Okay, so now inside of Scarecrow, you can see we have mpet example.geo, this is our BlockBench file, and we have mpet files. And then here we just have all the miniature pet files that we need to mess around with later on. So I'm just going to rename this to mpet because I like renaming that to mpet. And we're going to rename where it says mpet example, we're going to rename that to Scarecrow. Sweet, okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our scarecrow.geo inside of BlockBench. So I'm just going to open this up. You can click and drag from here, or you can just file open at the top by just clicking and dragging because it's easier for me. Okay, so here we are in BlockBench. So what I've got here in the example files, the template ones you just downloaded, is there's a head and there's an item. So this is just what it looks like on a player head or on an armor stand's head. I just prefer to work with heads because it's a lot easier than having to mess around with the arms and stuff because their rotations are all off and it's just a lot more difficult. So what we're going to do is you don't want to actually edit anything in this window. This window is just for renaming these 2 things and adding more of them. So you can see they're in the edit window. We don't want to change anything in here. We just want to duplicate these and rename them. We don't want to actually move anything in here. Because if you move something in here, that's just going to mess up the pivot points. And you don't want to do that. That's how the animation will actually work in the next step. So the first step here is what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our block because we want 2 heads on our animation since we have one here, one here. So we're going to rename this block to head, and then what we can do is we can do Control D, and it will just make a new one. We can rename this body. I'm just going to move that down to organize it, and we need 4 items. We need 2 legs, 2 arms. So we're just going to duplicate this 4 times and rename these arm left, arm right, leg left, leg right. Okay, so I've got all of our items now. Now the next step, you want to go to the animate window. Don't want to edit anything in the edit window, you want to go straight to the animate window. And now we're in this window, we can actually move stuff around. But first you have to make an animation file. You can name this whatever you want, I don't think it really matters. But if we just do that, now we can move these around. Okay, so this is a pretty common issue that I've had. I'm not sure why it happens, but you can see it doesn't move with the things or something. It's really strange. So the way I fix it is I just drag the one that's being weird around, drag it down, drag it back, and then if you move the slider, it'll just pop into position. I don't know why it does that, but it does. So what I'm going to do is I need to figure out where his body needs to be. So his body and his head, I need to figure out where those are from the ground. So this is the ground. So I need to figure out how long his legs are. And I'm just going to make them tripwire hooks. So if I go to Minecraft, I've got my tripwire hook. You can see that it is about 2 pixels, 3 pixels maybe, from the edge. I think it's 4 actually. So just judging off that, I can determine that I need to cut off about that many pixels. So if I just go like this, and align it to the ground, like that, that's pretty much already where I want it to be. So you can see it's going into the body by that many pixels, well, that amount, which looks kind of similar there. So it's still a little bit of a guessing game, but it's really easy to come back in here and adjust the animations and then put them back in the converter if there's ever an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it across and then back into the middle. So that's where my first leg is going to be. Now what I can do that's just going to make your life a little bit easier is if you look down here, if I click on right leg, it'll show up in here. So I can just copy my keyframe and paste it into here, and then I can click flip on the X. Okay, so this is happening the same issue before, so just drag it around. There it is. Really strange. It's really strange. I'm not exactly sure why that happens, but you can just drag these around and it'll pop back up if you just adjust the slider. So now I've got both my legs in place. We're going to move the arms in place and the head in place. So you can see the head's kind of inside this. It's a little bit hard to see. So what I can do is I can actually go to my edit menu again. And you can see head, block, blah, blah, blah. You can see this block here, which is the actual model. We can just go to marker color and we can change that to a different color. And then that'll make it stand out here. So what we can do is we can just move this up to position. There you go, so now we've got a head on our body with our legs, and we're just going to move our arms into position here. I'm going to actually rotate these on this axis, 90 degrees, and then I'm going to rotate it like that, and move it up into position. Just going to double check how long a lever is in game. It's kind of like halfway, so I'm going to actually just like jam this halfway into my dude, just so I don't mess it up. Sweet. And then what we can do is the same thing we did before. We can actually copy our rotation and our position both at the same time. You can click on this one and we can just paste it, and then we can just click flip, and there you go. So now we've got our arms, got our legs, got our body, got our head. And now we can actually start animating this little guy. Okay. So we're just going to do is we're going to click Control S to save it really quick. And then we'll bring up this. You can name this whatever you want. I just prefer to keep it as scarecrow.animation. Just so that we can continue doing Control S in the future without having to worry about that window popping up. Okay, so this is the next thing that we're going to talk about. Is you can see here we have our keyframes. So what you want to do for each frame is you want to make sure that the keyframes are filled for both rotation and position on every object. This is just so it doesn't get confused when it goes to convert it, because otherwise if you have a keyframe over here for, say, frame 1, it will just assume that the keyframe for frame 1 is for frame 0 if there isn't a keyframe for frame 0. So it's just going to mess up your animation. So you just want to make sure that every frame you fill the keyframes. You don't need to bother with scale though, just for position rotation. Okay, so this is the... Okay, so now what we're going to do... Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start animating. So if you look at this right now, this is going to be structure files, these animations, these keyframes. So we want to create our first frame. So we're going to go to frame 1. Well, second one. You can go anywhere in between. The timing in here doesn't mean anything. This isn't going to convert to the inputs because the inputs have a totally different timing system. This is just to set up the keyframes in a visual way. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to go to like the 1 second mark, the 2 second mark, the 3 second mark, just so it's, you know, sort of organized, but also not really. But that's just my preference. So we're gonna go to our 1 second mark, and we're gonna start animating our little dude. So I'm gonna actually animate his head to rotate, just so he has a little bit of variation when he's walking around. And I'm gonna animate his arms. Oh, that is weird. Okay, I'm gonna animate his arms to swing. I suppose I'll just do it like that. And a little bit like that. Okay. So that's gonna be his arms swing in this direction. You can see that animation playing out now. It's probably not the best way of showing that, but you know. And I'm gonna animate his legs moving. So this leg's gonna go backwards, and this leg's gonna go forwards. So if I just rotate them like that, then I can maneuver them into place. Like this. And like that. As you can see, that's kind of in line there. I'm hoping that's not going to cause any issues. Okay, and we're going to copy these frames, I think, and we can just flip them around when we go to the other frame. So paste, flip, and we just want to make sure it's rotated the opposite directions, which is like that, maybe? Hold up, 70. I got no idea. I'm just gonna move it around and see if it looks good. Animating with these items is a bit difficult because their pivot points aren't centered. But that's right. It's just a little bit trial and error. Move that in place. Okay. That looks right. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back into our thing here. I'm gonna actually animate his body moving down a little bit. So his head just has a little bit of variation. He's bobbing up and down. So you can see everything pretty much got a keyframe there, except for body rotation. So we're just going to add a keyframe. So now we've got all our keyframes for frame 1. I'm going to move to frame 2. So what I usually do, if I'm doing like a walk cycle animation like this, is I can just duplicate the entire thing and then copy each value over to each side. So it'll just mirror it. So what we can do to do that is we can just go down to, yeah, we can select all these keyframes. We can just go Control C, frame 2, Control V. And now it's just the same keyframe, so nothing's going to animate between these two parts, but we can start flipping everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, yeah, select this. So you can see arm left. What I can do is I can copy the keyframes from here, go to arm right, and paste them there, and then we can just flip it. If your flip isn't here, I've customized my toolbar. You can go to edit. Never mind, you can't go to edit. You just have to add it there. Just go to toolbar, customize, and then you can search flip and put it in there. Not sure why that wouldn't be an option. Okay, so we've got that one now. So if you go back to this frame, you can see we want this one on that arm. So this one is what? This is arm right. So we're going to copy that, go back to here, go to arm left, paste it into place, and then flip it. So now we've got both of our arms flipped. Do the same with our legs. Go to leg left, copy, leg right, paste, leg left, copy, leg right, copy, leg left, paste. now that has actually pretty much worked, I think. Ah, no, you can see the positions flip around. But to fix that, pretty easy. Just flip that one, flip that one, and there you go. That's a little walk cycle. You can see his legs and his arms just doing the Macarena. Okay, I'm just gonna adjust his head. 15, and I'm gonna keep his body where it is. So this is pretty much the walk cycle animation, but to make it smoother, what we're gonna do is we're gonna move our frame 2s to frame 3, and we're gonna just set all the keyframes in here to our first frame, which is just his standing position. So we're gonna copy those and paste them in here, Control C, Control V, and then you can see he walks like that. And then what we have to do to make sure this will loop properly is we have to copy all of our first frames, copy to our last frames. So then you can see his little walk animation. Bap, bap. So now if you play this on a loop, you can see it's a little bit slow in BlockBench, but that really doesn't mean anything because the animation speed is all determined on your frame delay and your quality in input. So you can see him walking around, and this is perfect, it's what we want. So I'm going to stop that loop, I'm going to stop it. We're just going to do Control S. So the last thing you want to do, just to make sure, is you want to double check all your frames and make sure you have keyframes for rotation and position for every object on every frame you have, which you can see I do. So that way I know this is going to work perfectly when I put it into the converter. So I think that is our next step, is to put it into the converter and start working on our input. Alright, so we're going to go to my website now, where we were before. And we can go here and you can see you have upload BlockBench animation. So we click that, it's going to bring us to your last position that you've uploaded from. I've been working on some mobs, so this is where I've been brought to. So what we're going to do is going to go to desktop, Scarecrow, and scarecrow.animation. I'm just going to open that. And you can see this is opened structure files. So the structure for our head, arm, body, arm, leg, head, and then these are the animations. So it has head, arm, body, etc. all in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just download these. You don't have to change anything if you're just doing the head stuff and the item stuff. This display scale thing, you just leave that at 1.6. But if you're doing 3D models, this is something you have to adjust. But for us, we're just going to stick to 1.6 and we can just download everything. And now we showed that in folder, you can see these are all our files. So we're going to go back into our Scarecrow file. Or we can go to our input and our structure. And we can just copy over all of our structure files like that. And we're going to go to our animation frame. I'm going to copy all of these into the animation. I'm not going to bother with animation idle. I just have that in there in case you want to do that. Okay, so this is the next step we're going to do. We're going to rename all of our things. Scarecrow. Okay, and then we're going to open up our scarecrow.yml because we need to rename some stuff in here as well. Scarecrow. For symbol, you just want to make sure that it is actually set to a valid structure file. So I actually have one called head already, so head will work fine for me. I'm going to leave frame delay in for quality, that's fine to me, that doesn't matter too much. I'm going to open up items. So in items, I have a bunch of example items you can use to create your own items. So in this case, we're not going to need any damaged items, so I'm just going to delete that. But we do need 2 player heads, so I can copy this and I can paste that below. Just make sure you have the right spacing or else this will just break. Okay, so for our heads, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename them to the right things. So I've got head and I've got body. So I'm going to rename this to head, rename this to body. And for these textures, the skull URLs, what I've done is I've gone to minecraftheads.com, and that's where I got them to put them in game, so I've got them in game here. But wait, all you want from the site is you want the Minecraft URL at the bottom. So we just copy this, and what we can do is go back to here and head. So if you select from here to there, just after texture, paste, this is going to be our head one. We're going to go back to here, and we've got the body one. I'm going to copy that, paste that here. There you go. And I want to do my legs and my arms, so we're going to do arm. I'm going to select this, and duplicate it. I'm going to select this, I'm going to copy it. Rename this one leg, and we're going to rename these to lever and trip wire hook. I think that's what it's going to be. I'm not too sure, so that might break, and we'll have to find out what the name for that will be. Okay, let's just try this for now. So we're going to shrink that back, and what we're going to do, this is pretty important. So if you open up our structure files here, you can see the helmet, which is going to be the item. They're just called leg L, leg right. So what we can do is we can just open them up, delete the end of it, and then it will link up to here. Alternatively, you can just have leg left, leg right in here, but you can just edit these and remove it, and it just means it'll work the same way. But if you don't want to edit in here, you can just change. You can just add a new one here like this, and just go leg L, leg R, and just make sure it matches your structure file names, but we're just going to do it this way. And then we're going to open up our arm, and our other arm, and remove those last bits off them. So now all their names are to the items. So we're going to close all these, and we're going to open up our input file, just in whatever raw files that like program you want to use, 7-zip. I'm just using WinRAR because I like it more. And we're going to select everything here, and we're going to deselect that, and we're just going to drag it in and click OK, and that'll upload everything. Now what you can do is that's our input file done, hopefully. So I'm going to open up my server files, go to my plugins. I'm just going to copy over my scarecrow into here. Okay, so let's see if this worked. I have no idea yet. Okay, reload. Let's see if it gives me any errors. No errors so far. So we're going to do mpet. We have a little mob in here. I didn't rename him to Scarecrow. Yeah. So if you rename this to Scarecrow, save that, open this back up. We can just drag Scarecrow back in here, copy it to our server files, and reload again, and it should be called Scarecrow. I'm gonna click him, and there he is, in all his glory. He's got his little arms, he's got his little legs. Looking cute as hell. So this is a common issue that I've seen with a few of these files for some reason. But you can see his like body jigs and jives around while everything else kind of like looks like it's supposed to. So a quick fix for this that I've found is if you just go back to BlockBench, what we can do is we can just add like a really slight rotation to him on his walk frames. So if I just rotate him like not even 1, rotate them like 0.25 or something. I'll just set it here, 0.25. If I just set that to 0.25 and I go to his other frame, I set this to negative 0.25 just for consistency. That will actually kind of fix that weird jittering issue. So if I save this again, I can convert it all again in here. So I can re-upload this, you just have to cancel it and then re-upload. Scarecrow. And since we didn't change any of our structure files, we can just download the animations. We don't need to download the structure files again. So we're just going to cut those into here. Oh, wrong place. We're going to cut those into animation frames. Okay, so I'm going to open this back up. And we can just move animation frames back into here, and that will replace all of our animations in there. And copy them back over. Okay, so mpat reload. I'm going to do mpat, spawn it back in, and now you can see that his body isn't as jittery. I'm assuming it's just because it doesn't rotate, it just doesn't update it at all. It doesn't feel like it needs to. So if you just add like a little tiny rotation to all of your elements, it'll stop them from like jittering around and being weird. But you can see this is pretty good actually. His animation's not too bad, except that leg looks a bit jank. Oh well, that's alright. That's not too bad, I guess. But if you put a little more effort into these, you can make them look a little bit better. So I actually have made another one using this method. It's on my desktop. There we go. So you have salmon, and we open this up. You can see it's the exact same layout as everything else. So I can actually open this up in BlockBench to show you. So just open that up in here, click on animate, and you can just drag the animation, I think. Yep. So this was just a real simple animation of 3 heads and an item. It's kind of like a normal salmon. So if I just watch through this animation, you can see it like bobs up and down. So I converted that into a mpat, and it's just here. So my mpat files. So if I just go back here and reload, reload, mpat. See my little salmon, and since I put a little more effort into him, you can really see that he does actually look a lot better. He just bobs around. You can see that same jittering issue on his torso, just the middle section, so I could just do that same fix I did before, and that would stop it from jittering around like it does. So that's just my simple tutorial on how to create head and item mobs in BlockBench and using my converter. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just have to know the little few nuances. So to just like a quick recap, make sure you have all your frames, all your keyframes set for each frame. Make sure there's no like weird missing frames in here, or else it's just going to assume that those frames go there and the animation's not going to line up at all. So just don't do that. That's just like the main thing. Don't move anything in the edit window. If you move anything in the edit window, it'll just break this, and that will just mean it won't line up in game. Because if I move something like this up one in game, if I animate it and assume that that's where it's going to be in game, the head will be one head lower, if that makes any sense. So just don't edit anything in here. Only edit stuff in the animate window. So that's all. Hope that has helped you create some pretty cool mPats, and I can't wait to see some pretty swaggy ones in the future.